Clara Bennett had learned one thing in 32 years of life. When you are quiet, the world takes advantage of that silence. She was the kind of woman who apologized when someone bumped into her. The kind who stayed late at the office without being asked, then slipped out before anyone could notice she'd done it. She never complained. Never pushed back. Never asked for more than she was given. Her coworkers called her reliable. Her manager called her convenient. Nobody called her by her first name unless they needed something. Clara worked as a junior coordinator at Mercer & Lane, a mid-sized marketing firm in the city. She had been there for 6 years, longer than most of the people above her. She had trained 2 of her supervisors. She had saved 3 campaigns that would have otherwise collapsed. She had done it all quietly, efficiently, without a single word of credit. She told herself she didn't mind. She was lying. It was a Thursday afternoon when the meeting room situation happened. Clara had booked conference room B 2 weeks in advance. It was the only room with the projector she needed for her client presentation, a presentation she had spent 11 days preparing. She arrived 10 minutes early, laptop in hand, notes organized, everything ready. The room was already occupied. Derek Holt, senior account manager, loud laugh, louder opinions, was inside with his team, sprawled across the chairs like they owned the building. He looked up when Clara opened the door. "Oh, Clara." He didn't even check his watch. "We're using this room." "I booked it," she said. Quietly. Carefully. 2 weeks ago. "I have a client presentation in 20 minutes." Derek shrugged. "We're in the middle of something. Just find another room." Clara stood in the doorway. Her presentation was in 20 minutes. Every other conference room was booked. The client was already on their way up. She looked at Derek's team, 5 people staring at their phones, no projector running, no presentation happening. Just coffee cups and casual conversation. She opened her mouth. Then she closed it. "It's okay," she whispered. "I'll go." She turned around and walked straight into James Mercer. James Mercer was not supposed to be in the building that day. He was the CEO, the founder of Mercer & Lane, a man whose name was literally on the wall. He was 51, sharp-eyed, and moved through the office with the quiet confidence of someone who noticed everything and said only what mattered. He had been passing by on his way to a different floor. He had heard the exchange through the open door. He looked at Clara, her carefully organized folder, her laptop, the faint tension around her eyes that she was working very hard to hide, and then he looked past her into the room where Derek sat unbothered, already back to his conversation. "Clara," James said. His voice was calm. "What's happening?" Clara shook her head quickly. "Nothing, Mr. Mercer. I'll just find another space." "You booked this room?" A pause. "Yes." "And you have a client presentation in?" He glanced at his watch. 18 minutes? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. James Mercer stepped around her and walked into conference room B. The room went quiet immediately. "Derek." His voice hadn't changed. Still calm. Still even. "This room was booked by Clara. Her client presentation starts in 18 minutes. He paused. "You have 5 minutes to move your team." Derek blinked. "We were just..." "5 minutes," James repeated. Not louder. Just final. Derek stood up. Clara stood in the hallway, hands tied around her laptop, not quite sure what had just happened. James came back out and stood beside her. "You should not have said that," he said quietly. She looked up. "Said what?" "It's okay, I'll go." He shook his head. "It wasn't okay. Your time was booked. Your work was prepared. Your client is on their way up. None of that was okay." Clara was quiet for a moment. She had heard versions of this situation her whole career. People taking her space, her time, her work, and her simply stepping aside with a smile and an apology for the inconvenience of existing. "I just didn't want to cause problems," she said honestly. James looked at her, really looked at her, for a long moment. I've been in this building a lot of days, Clara. I know what you've done for this company. I know which campaigns you saved. I know whose work actually ships on time." He paused. "The problem is not caused by people who speak up for themselves. The problem is caused by people who assume that because you won't, they can keep taking." Clara didn't say anything. There was something pressing at the back of her throat that she refused to let through. "Go give your presentation," he said. "And do it like someone who spent 11 days preparing it. Because you did." He walked away. Clara stood there for 3 seconds. Then she straightened her jacket, picked up her laptop, and walked into conference room B. The presentation went perfectly. The client signed that same afternoon. When Clara sent the summary email to her manager, she CC'd James Mercer without thinking twice. Something she had never done before. Something small. Something that said, "I was here. I did this. I am not going to be invisible today." 3 weeks later, she was offered a senior coordinator position. The first time in 6 years her title had changed. She didn't whisper thank you and disappear. She sat down in the meeting, looked the hiring manager in the eye, and said clearly, "I accept. And I'd like to discuss the scope of the role." It was such a small thing. And it was everything.